This was a very salient take, okay, and I totally agree with it. When I say the country is institutionally rigged for Republicans, I'm talking about how Virginia gets their maps struck down after a 2-year process involving multiple legislative sessions and a statewide referendum, but Tennessee can just decide not to enfranchise Memphis anymore. And that's literally what's going on here. It is so frustrating. So that's our top story for today. Let's get right into it.
Struck down a new congressional.
Democrats are taking a significant blow from the Virginia Supreme Court in the aftermath of this referendum that took place to redraw these maps. Brutal last 10 days in redistricting. Clay's decision significantly weakens the Voting Rights Act, opening the door for more redraws. Tennessee Republicans passed 9-0 congressional map. LA on track to eliminate at least one Dem seat. VA Supreme Court overturns Dem's 10-1 map. I mean, it's so obvious what's going on. These judges are basically playing politics, but they're wearing a robe while doing it. How do you not see it? How can you not see exactly what's going on? No, LA is Louisiana, chat. Louisiana is on track to eliminate at least one Dem seat. They're politicians in robes. They're nakedly partisan.
Congressional map that was passed by voters last month. Democrats have proposed a new map with the hopes of flipping 4 Republican-held House seats, and this is the latest battle in what's become this nationwide redistricting war. CNN's Arlette Saenz is here in the Situation Room. And Arlette, this is a big blow to Democrats.
Yeah, it really is. Democrats had been hoping to shore up their efforts to try to reclaim the majority, but this ruling from Virginia State Supreme Court is a significant derailment of those Democratic plans. Now, the Virginia State Supreme Court ruled that the creation of this referendum that happened last month violated the state's constitution. Our team is still reading through this opinion, but this certainly will be a major setback for Democrats going forward. Democrats had drawn this map hoping to create an additional 4 seats for Democrats in next year's Congress. They had kind of sliced up the more Democratic suburban areas of the Washington, D.C. area to make these districts that pinwheeled out into more rural areas. But now, for the time being, this is prevented from going forward. This is made even more complicated by the fact that we have seen so many Republican states swiftly moving over the last week to redraw their maps. We've seen Florida and Tennessee pass measures to try to draw their maps and gain more Republican seats. There are other efforts underway in Louisiana, Alabama, and South Carolina as well. And so that really can potentially shift the way that some of these House races are going to look heading into November. You know, Democrats are really hoping that they can reclaim the majority. They feel that they have a lot of the political, economic headwinds are working in their favor. But certainly this is a major setback in this redistricting race, as we've seen states across the country, Republican and Democrats, trying to redraw their congressional maps to acquire more seats in what's going to be a very close midterm election.
And you're seeing a difference in how some of the states are doing it. Like in Virginia, it was the voters, right, who voted for the redistricting. In other states, you're seeing the legislature take the reins and do it themselves, right?
And that's one thing that Democrats have tried to argue is different from what they are doing compared to what some of these Republican states have been doing. We saw California and Virginia come out with referendums where they're...
The system is unbelievably favored for Republicans to continue leaning into white supremacist values and disenfranchise certain groups of voters, specifically black voters, that end up voting for the Democratic Party. Okay, this is not new. This is literally the history of the civil rights struggle. This is why the Voting Rights Act had to be passed to begin with. It doesn't make any sense that we're even having this conversation. We knew that this was going to happen. And that was literally the GOP's assessment from the start, where they were like, oh, there's no need for this anymore, right? There's no need. There's no need for any sort of checks, any sort of safeguard measures that will ensure that there is democratic participation and black voices will be heard in the South. Brother, there was a war that was fought to disenfranchise black people, or continue their disenfranchisement, continue their slavery, as a matter of fact. And there was plenty of wars that were waged to ensure that that disenfranchisement continued in the South especially. the idea that the Republicans would play ball and they would be nice if there was no such rules stopping them from doing this is totally ridiculous. Obviously, the Tennessee Republicans are using the new VRA decision coming down from the Supreme Court to their advantage to say, no, this is a nakedly partisan thing. No, it's not a nakedly partisan thing. Okay, you're not redistricting specifically in a nakedly partisan manner. You're redistricting to disenfranchise black voters. Okay, that's it. It's very clear what's going on.
Voters had to decide if they...
And this is the Tennessee side of the conversation. I'm not talking about Virginia in this circumstance. But those two things are tied to one another. The Supreme Court decision that undermined the VRA is exactly what is tied to the same thing that took place in Virginia. If Democrats want to combat the Republican redistricting in Texas, they have to go through this long and convoluted process, right? They even leave it up to the voters. They put out a referendum, and the people of Virginia vote. The people of Virginia vote for that redistricting, and then they redraw the maps, okay? And then the Virginia Supreme Court goes, nah, sorry, doesn't work that way. What the do you mean it doesn't work that way? None of you guys were had a significant say in this. Like, the people voted. You're denying the wishes of 3 million people in Virginia. What the are you talking about? Yeah, I think the Democrats should simply ignore the Supreme Court ruling. I agree. This is not Canada. We uphold the Constitution and Supreme Court rulings here. No, you don't. Yeah. Graham Plattner says, just ignore the court ruling. I'm old enough to remember when Republicans in Ohio just ignored court rulings repeatedly and did it anyway. Yeah, I think they should, by the way. I agree. Which, by the way, VA Dems are not. They're saying we respect the decision of the Supreme Court of Virginia. I don't respect it. Okay? Ball. We play ball. What are we doing? Why did you even do this to begin with if you're not going to push for it? Like, these guys are shaking up the system on a daily basis. You have to shake it back in order to defend your constituents, in order to defend democracy. This is something that I have talked about quite frequently. Okay? Democrats, in an effort to consistently point back to the institutions and their infallibility, keep giving in to the Republicans who are destroying said institutions. Anyway, all right, let's move on from this. The other thing that I said earlier was the VA Supreme Court denied the results of the redistricting referendum. SCOTUS gutted the Voting Rights Act, and Tennessee carved up the last Dem district, destroying black voter power in the state. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. Now, many of you are probably familiar with this quote. If you have done any reading whatsoever, you know that this is JFK, right? And of course, classic, I said, democracy is a pressure valve for the public. This kind of systemic disenfranchisement will inevitably lead to chaos, okay? And this, of course, frustrated every Republican, including former Republican Stacey K. But the Voting Rights Act being repealed was all a result of peaceful right-wing revolution. They accomplished the rollback of Voting Rights Act by winning important elections over the span of the last 30 years. Revolution isn't necessarily a left-wing thing. I didn't say that. That's precisely the reason why I'm using the JFK quote, okay? Also, I wouldn't say that the Republican takeover of American politics has been peaceful at all. Anyway, Ted Cruz obviously responded immediately. This is who the Democrats are campaigning alongside. The is openly calling for violent revolution. Humiliating even for you. They don't teach JFK quotes at Harvard, or maybe you missed it when you grew up in Canada. It just, everyone is dunking on him. Okay. And then there's the people who are going, actually. Like, this is my favorite type of dumbass, right? Guy who will come in to be like, well, to be fair, it's JFK's quote, but Hasan openly calls for violence. So I'm going to totally rob the nuance of the context of the situation, right? Like, what are you doing? And then I click on their profile and they're not even a liberal. Or wait, maybe they are. You can check all the quotes here. Oh yeah, no, it's just Ben Shapiro, Cartier communist, Bill Milligan. Okay. Bill Melugin, Will Chamberlain denaturalized, deport Hasanpiker, Andy No. It's a real who's who. And then Tim Miller, who also came in hot. Okay? This is funny, though. The quote Hasan is deploying here is from JFK, but I can understand why Ted Cruz might not be a fan of JFK. Yeah, possibly because his dad wasn't a fan of JFK. Okay? Tim Miller says, do not think people should consider violence over Virginia gerrymandering rulings. There are plenty of other remedies. In fact, Democrats are likely to win 8 seats out of 11 and control the House of Representatives. I said, I'm not advocating for violence. I don't think JFK was either. He said, I understand. I just think the quote isn't applicable in the case of Virginia. To which I said, I think the VA Supreme Court and the gutting of the VRA are a part of the same nakedly partisan court system that actively works to overturn the democratic wishes of the majority and disenfranchise people. Where do you think this will go if the people of Tennessee lose faith in democracy altogether? The Tennessee situation is materially different from VA. It's really grotesque. Spent most of the pot on it today. The state can barely be described as a democracy at this point, and I can understand why people would be demoralized. That said, is it worse than Hungary, which just defeated an authoritarian without mass violence? I don't believe so. There are a lot of great people, Jonas Pearson, Tennessee Holler, doing revolutionary organizing there without suggesting the answer may be violence. If anything, violence there would probably empower the authoritarians elsewhere. Once again, Tim Miller's like, I understand the point that you're making, but I'm still going to act like you're advocating for violence. I'm not advocating for violence. I'm saying if you keep destroying different pressure valves, if you keep telling people they can't protest in the streets, if you jail them over it, okay, if you take away their power to vote, if you take away their representation, then people are inevitably going to lead in that direction, which is, ironically enough, exactly what JFK was talking about, right? That's it. It's nothing new. I don't think he understands that this sentiment isn't promoting violent action. It's that it leads people other than you making that choice. It's about removing a pressure valve. Yes, I make it very clear. And yet, there are plenty of liberals who despise someone ever leaning into systemic analysis. There are plenty of people who think analysis equals endorsement. There are plenty of people who genuinely cannot comprehend someone saying, look, these kinds of seismic shifts that disenfranchise voters, if left unchecked, will inevitably create a destabilized system. And in the aftermath of said destabilized system where people have no pressure valves, they will take violent actions. This is not to promote violent revolution. It's to try to avoid violent revolution. Your post needs to include analysis alert. Yeah. Abdullah said, are you going to condemn your buddy's call for a violent revolution? Yeah, I don't think Abdullah Sayed is going to call out JFK. I don't think he's going to. Abdullah Sayed, do you condemn JFK? Don't you think JFK is Hamas? They hate the messenger, but you're the boy who cried wolf, but it was a wolf getting closer and closer and closer. Never that it wasn't coming, in my honest opinion. Leftist streamer Hasanpiker calls violent revolution inevitable after Supreme Court throws out Democrat redistricting map that would have given the party a 10-1 House advantage. Get the full story. It's so insincere, and I personally don't give a shit, you know? It's so unbelievably insincere, no matter what happens. Hasan, if you leave the cake in the oven for too long, you will burn it. Them, how dare you suggest we burn the cake? Yeah. Randy Fine is adding Director Cash. Democrat leading spokesperson and Muslim terrorist Hasanpiker is calling for violence in the aftermath of the court ruling striking down to illegal gerrymander in Virginia. Democrats have made Muslim terror violence a core part of their party. I love that the moderate Democratic wing, by the way, is like pretty much right there with Randy Fine. Like they haven't resorted to calling me a radical Muslim terrorist, but they certainly don't have an issue with it. Yeah, quoting JFK is terrorism. Quoting JFK is terrorism. Great. All right. I guess I'm going to prison. What am I supposed to do? What kind of an idiotic country do we live in? Sarah Longwell replied, instead of violent revolution, maybe we could persuade a lot more people to vote Democrat than Republicans. Worth a try. Oh my God. Oh my God. One, I'm not advocating for a violent revolution, but let me tell you, between you and I think you're the one who's leaning further into that direction. You're making it inevitable. You're advocating for the inevitability of that with this kind of sentiment. Oh, come on, just vote harder. The f- do you mean just vote harder? They did vote. This is a denial of their vote. That's the conversation we're having. People voted super hard. What do you do when people vote and then the Supreme Court turns around and says, sucks to suck? Oh.
Actually wanted to move this forward. And this was a very close race that happened just a little over 2 weeks ago. I think that this passed by about 3 percentage points. So it's something that Virginia voters were very torn up about, but had decided to move forward with. But then we have seen more Republican-led states really turn and try to just do this through their state legislators, with Texas being the state.
By the way, this is a test, okay? This is an expansion of the permission structure. We cannot permit them to do this. We have to fight back. Like, what's to stop if they can overturn the democratic process in Virginia by way of the Supreme Court of Virginia? What's to stop them from trying this in other states? What's to stop them from doing this at the federal level? Hello? Do you guys not understand what the f- is going on? Like, okay, let's just let them overturn elections. And then when they do, like they did here, right? When they overturn the election, we'll just go, well, sucks to suck. We'll get him next time. We'll just vote harder next time. Okay, and then they overturn that. What do we do? Vote even extra hard? Is that what we're going to do? What happens when voting doesn't matter? Because that's where we're at right now. The problem is they control the Justice Department, so they can do whatever. They can do it like we're awesome when we try to do it. They're like, we're prosecuting. I know, they're already doing that. They're doing that to Louise in Virginia, who was spearheading the effort. She was spearheading the redistricting effort, and they literally sent the goons from the DOJ to prosecute her. What are we doing? What are we doing? We are living through fascism right now, and people are just oblivious to this reality. Okay, it's in the middle stages. It hasn't been completely finalized as a fascist project, but we have to do something about it. Like, the reason why these redistricting battles are taking place is because Trump is unpopular and he knows it. Okay, he knows he's going to lose the House of Representatives and possibly the Senate too. He doesn't want the people's democratic will to be recognized. That's why they're redistricting. They're playing the board because they don't have the numbers, and people are out here going, just vote harder next time. Be careful, they will come for you next. Man, I know that. What the do you mean? I know that. I know that already. And by the way, come for you next. They're already coming for me. What have you been paying attention to the news? For like the last 3 months, it's been non-stop. Dem response to VA court decision is telling people to turn out and vote, even though they just did that and it didn't work. Do you think the courts are going to overturn the midterm results? They might as well. If we let them, yes. Yes, actually, yes. They just did. They overturned a referendum. A referendum is an act of direct democracy, okay? It is the most participatory democratic process that you can engage in. It's black and white, okay? It is more of a direct act of democracy than even voting for a representative, okay? It's the most basic form of direct democracy you can have. It's the most democratic process. And the Virginia Supreme Court was like, nope. No reason not to redraw CA to be 52-0. Oh, 100%. 100%. Look, if this game is busted, but there are more Democrats in general around the country, or more people who want to vote against the Republicans in this country, let's not say more Democrats, right? But people that want to punish the current administration, they want their voices to be heard. This is what you got to do. Florida changed their maps in like 3 days. Why does it take so long for the Dems to do it? Because the Democratic Party is so used to being the conciliatory party, the party that does concessions to the Republicans, that they have they don't have a dog. They don't have the dog in them. It's that simple. Why do you think I'm going around the country trying to elect people who will fight? Because by and large, there are Democrats out there. that genuinely want to fight back. They're not my ideological allies in any way, shape, or form. What, you think a Democratic state legislator from the state of Virginia who is a fan of me or even a fan of the things I say? No, of course not. But it doesn't matter, because anyone that recognizes the danger, okay, the president pro tempore of the Senate of Virginia, representing the 18th district, Louise Lucas, okay? Do you think Louise Lucas and I see the world in the same way? Do you think out of 10 issues, do you think Louise and I agree on 9 of them? No, but we agree on the one thing, and that is that we have to fight back against the fascist Republican Party, and that's the one issue that matters, okay? That's it. I don't have an issue. If the Democrats are going to put up a strong fight, a strong opposition, I'm there with them. I'm by their side. I'll be their biggest, loudest champion. That's it. I don't give a shit if we don't agree on any of the other stuff. This is an unbelievably important, if not the most important problem right now. So many people refuse to recognize that. So many people refuse to reckon with that, okay? Maybe even some to my left refuse to reckon with that, where they're like, oh, well, this is a bourgeois democracy. Why are you even participating in the electoral process? Well, there's a reason for why I'm participating in it. Because we don't have the revolutionary fervor. We don't have the organizational capacity at this moment. We don't even have the class consciousness where people actually recognize that they're working class. And I don't want this country to turn into a full-blown fascist autocracy. And we're already in the middle stages of that transition right now, and people seemingly don't realize it. A great example of that fascist autocracy taking shape is the fact that the FBI raided the office of Virginia Senate President pro tempore, L. Louise Lucas. This comes weeks after she spearheaded a redistricting effort in Virginia, netting up to 4 new blue seats.
Another one.
Clip of Jackson Hinkle saying your strategy worked on him. Jackson Hinkle admits his eyes were opened by Bernie Sanders. Hinkle expressed disdain for Hasanpiker's strategy of trying to induce class consciousness into liberals through social dems. When he himself was first introduced to socialism by Bernie Sanders, he opened my eyes.
Take Bernie Sanders, who's just your average social dem. I mean, he's a liberal Democrat. I don't even know what social Democrat means anymore. He's not what we want, but I think he opens the eyes of many liberals who have never heard the word socialism used in a positive context. Well, you know, yeah, he did, right? He opened my eyes. But then my eyes were really not open. My eyes were only open when I realized that, oh, that's not socialism at all.
Anyway, probably not the best example, but these are some of the people like spearheading the anti-Hasan movement on my left flank, or at least they claim to be on my left flank, which I don't think they are. Okay. I've noticed a sickening trend. Men who themselves are against or support others who are against Medicare for all, affordable housing, voting rights, freedom of speech, equal rights overall are either sex traffickers, pedos, rapists, into child pornography, or other some sexual predator. I need someone smarter to... Yeah, I have seen this too. I just love puzzles is right. The real Dark General Commander Jay Jones, Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones, the OG liberal driller, releases a statement on the Supreme Court of Virginia striking down 10D1R congressional map. Today, the Supreme Court of Virginia has chosen to put politics over the rule of law by issuing a ruling that overturns the April 21st special election on redistricting. This decision silences the voice of millions of Virginians who cast their ballots in every corner of the Commonwealth, and it fuels the growing fears across our nation about the state of our democracy. That's my goat. Jay Jones is the dark woke general, okay? If you guys remember, he was saying in his private correspondence some crazy things. And then guess what? Guess what? The people of Virginia were like, that's my guy, okay? My team is carefully reviewing this unprecedented order, and we are evaluating every legal pathway forward to defend the will of the people and protect the integrity of Virginia's elections. Arrest them. Jay, arrest these charlatans who are playing partisan politics while they wear those robes, and you will be reincarnated as a lotus flower. Jay Jones, do it. Do what must be done, Jay. Do what must be done. Okay? Impeach these judges, arrest them, Do what must be done, Jay. That's my GOAT. Comrade Jones will seize victory once again. That's the really only choice. I checked the VA Constitution and their Supreme Court rules on their own impeachments. Anyway, can the ruling be appealed? No, I don't think so. It's so surreal watching you address a photo of a dude I went to middle school with, but it's amazing too. I mean, listen, I'm a fan, okay? I love Jay Jones. You guys know this. Yeah, the only way that it can get appealed is obviously the Supreme Court of the United States, and we all know that's not going to happen, okay? Not this Supreme Court. Maybe they can ignore it, though, and then, see where it goes from that point on. I mean, obviously, the administration will try to take strong authoritarian action against that sort of thing, but the reality of the matter is sometimes you have to fight these battles, okay?
That really kicked off this whole redistricting battle last summer.
It's a huge loss for Democrats who spent tens of millions of dollars persuading Virginia voters to approve the new map. And it comes one day after Tennessee's governor signed into law a new Republican gerrymander that breaks up the only majority black district in the state. Louisiana, Alabama, and South Carolina may soon pass their own last-minute maps. So here's where that leaves the redistricting wars nationwide right now. Republicans have targeted 14 extra seats. Democrats could pick up 6. Theoretically, it would be an 8-seat GOP advantage. But here's an important caveat. Just because a seat is redrawn by Republicans or even Democrats doesn't mean it automatically goes that way, especially in a year like this one.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think that's also bullshit, okay? No, like there's a much higher likelihood. There's a much higher likelihood. That's the reason why they're stopping it. Like the idea that we can just like go to, I don't know, like a R+20 district, for example, and like flip it with enough momentum is, I think, silly. And also, there's already a lot of initiatives that are set in place, set in motion to stop that from happening anyway. Okay, we're talking about turnout in midterms, but even then, like, let's say you boost turnout. Okay, what happens when they overturn those results? When will people go, okay, enough is enough?
I'm joined by a terrific group of reporters here at the table. The president did not waste much time crowing about this Supreme Court decision in Virginia. He said, huge win for the Republican Party.
Huge win for the Republican Party in America and Virginia. Wow, he's not even shying away.
America in Virginia. The Virginia Supreme Court has just struck down the Democrats' horrible gerrymander, Make America Great Again. If you talk to Democrats privately, they don't disagree with what the president just said. It is a big loss. Here's one senior Democratic official who I was texting with as I saw this report told me, not good. A major upset in our bid to win the House back, though we still can prevail. But the hill just got a little steeper, Isaac.
Yeah, another Democratic operative who's working on House races this year said to me, look, 1.6 million people cast their vote and decided a very, very specific thing. And 4 unelected judges just said, piss off. I mean, that is the feeling among Democrats now. A real stinging defeat here. They thought that they would be getting this advantage in a bunch of these House districts in Virginia. Now they won't be. And there is not a lot of time left to get seats anywhere else, even as Republican-led states are moving, as you point out in that map, to try to get a couple more seats for them. This is, it is up to the people to vote, but this is very much a case of the politicians choosing the voters before the voters choose the politicians.
Which, again, we should underscore, everybody is doing.
Yep,
and
for sure.
It started, the mid-decade push to do this started at the White House with President Trump. It's interesting, just with this Virginia decision, James Blair, the president's top political advisor right now, was sitting where you're sitting, Nia, last week or the week before, and he was really leaning into the notion that Virginia would strike this down.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. I've been texting with folks, and they're saying, and these are folks at the D-Trip saying, yes, this is a setback, but they feel like, they were trying to get 4 additional seats. Probably 2 of those they probably can get, particular if it's a wave.
Because it could be a bad year.
It could be a bad year. But listen, this is a big blow. Hakeem Jeffries. I basically wrote a column that was like, this was great for Hakeem Jeffries because he was all in on it. $38 million spent from a group affiliated with him. Obama was in on this, and now this is a big defeat. And one of the reasons why Virginia was so important as well was Democrats were anticipating this Supreme Court decision, which is also going to have massive effects. So they felt like they've got this sort of tranche of 4 seats, and now of course that's gone. Again, they're still hopeful that they can maybe get 1 or 2 of these seats, but it has been a big waste of money. They'll have to pivot maybe to 2028 because this was a procedural decision. It looks like the voters, at least by a small margin, wanted these maps, but they're going to have to wait at least 2 years to get these maps.
So we're reporting what Democrats are telling us privately. Here's the public messaging in light of this defeat in Virginia. Just for example, Gavin Newsom, no vote in Tennessee, no vote in Florida, no vote in Missouri, North Carolina, Texas. This is the key. Virginia's voter-approved maps thrown out. MAGA has rigged the system.
I mean, another way to win the election is to motivate people to come out and vote. That's exactly what that message is trying to do here. I would just note, like, when it comes to Congress itself and how it functions, the impact that this is going to have could be really extreme, because what you're starting to see is that middling, those districts that are hard fought, those make good members. Those make members who make our job really interesting, because they sometimes will cross the aisle and vote with the other party because they feel like that's what they need to do to stay competitive. The fewer of those districts you have, the less and less likely.
Bro, what the? Do they not see that this is in the backdrop of a vote that took place that is currently overturned? Am I being too crazy about this? Maybe I am. Maybe they know something I don't. But it does shock me that without skipping a beat, CNN is like, oh, did the Supreme Court of Virginia overturn the votes of millions of Virginians? Well, you know the solution to that. It's to go out and vote harder. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What are we talking about? Like, how hard? How hard are we voting here? Like, do you mean something different? Like, what are we talking about here? You should vote, but then they pack it R+20. It would take an act of God to win there. That's what I mean. The whole point is, what is this? Did you see the SF publication calling you out for being at Shikos rally? Use the legendary photo of you the food. It's messed up. POV, you vote extra hard.
Play that funky music, white boy. Play that funky music, white boy.
Yeah, Malcolm X holding ballot by any votes necessary. Exactly. No, this is famous. This is the famous photo. This is the famous photo of Malcolm X doing what must be done, which is, by any votes necessary, voting extra hard. Okay, this is what it is. This is what's going on. CNN is basically going the route of VA voters hate this one Supreme Court life hack, soy face. I like that the solution to the Supreme Court overturning the democratic wishes of the majority is to just vote harder. So what then? What happens when they still overturn those wishes as well? If it even happens, it's probably not going to. That's the entire purpose of redistricting is specifically so that it's virtually impossible for your voice to be heard, right? Like that's the whole goal here. And in an effort to combat against the national battle for redistricting taking place, because Donald Trump is unbelievably unpopular and knows he's going to lose the House of Representatives, he's urged Texas, the Texas Republican Party, to redistrict in Texas to secure additional Republican votes by way of cheating. So then the Democrats were like, two can play that game, except we are Democrats, so we're going to play that game in the most above board, legally sound way possible, which is by referendum. And we're not even going to do that permanently. We're just going to do that until the next census takes place. Because remember, Democrats love putting these limitations on themselves ahead of time. They do everything above board, as they did in the state of Virginia, and they still were like, no, the wishes of the majority are totally secondary.